Hello, and thank you for joining me today on Jill Cameron Creations. Today we're going to look at how to quickly do a Copic colored flower. We're going to be using the Altenew Best Mom stamp set. It is an older stamp set, but it is absolutely beautiful. It has a lot of really great mom sentiments in it. Mom's coming up, so we definitely want to take advantage of Mother's Day is coming up, so we want to take advantage of that and make sure mom has a beautiful card. We're also going to be using the Neat and Tangled Topography stamp set. It has a background image in it that is just, it looks like a topography map, and it's really, really cool for the background of a card. I'm going to be doing something a little different using gray, white, and pink are going to be my main colors on my card. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and stamp my background on some light gray cardstock using the topography stamp. I've put this in my Misty, inked up my stamp with Versamark ink, and now I'm going to add some white embossing powder so I can heat set that. I do everything over a coffee filter. It is amazing for cleanup. You can get those little spoons on Amazon. I'll link to those in my blog post as well, so you can find those. You get a great big huge set of them, so if you lose it, it doesn't matter. I just sprinkle the heat embossing powder over the image. Make sure you use your anti-static powder tool over that so you don't have stray embossing powder anywhere. Also, to keep from burning your fingers on this, I'm going to place my image on my cutting board, on my background piece on my cutting board, and then I'll take my heat gun to it. Make sure that your heat gun is good and hot so that you're not going to warp your paper in any way or burn it. And I almost burned it because if you saw, I like kind of jumped a little bit there for a second because I don't know what I did, but I almost burnt the paper and I was kind of glad I didn't. So let that cool off for just a second. See how easy it is to clean up? You just pour that powder back into your little container there and it's done. Even if you keep your powder in the little round original container, it works just fine. Now we're going to move on to stamping our floral image, and this is on some Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock. And I'm using the MFT new Extreme Black ink. It is dark. It is wonderful. And the only reason that I had to stamp it twice is because I just did not get good coverage on pressure on one part of the stamp, and I wanted to make sure that it was stamped really good in that one place right there again. Yes, I have two different stamp platforms. The Tim Holtz stamping platform and also the Misty, the original size Misty. Those are the only two that I have, and I use those all the time. For this Extreme Black ink, it's pretty new to me, so I wanted to make sure that it didn't smear into my flowers, so I did heat set that before I used it. And if you notice, I'm using a lot of markers here. I'll list the markers that I'm using down in the description below. And I have a mix of sketch and chow markers for my Copic collection. And I'm just doing tiny little flicks of color of the darkest color first at the base of my flower, or where any of the shadows would be in these flowers. Since this is a floral image that is really simply drawn, you can kind of pick where you want your shadows to be in the bigger flowers. And of course I wanted the center of my flowers to be darkest, and just went through and added the darker color in those areas in little flicks of color. If you notice, as I'm holding my marker there, I'm holding it more straight up and down than I am like if you would write with it. That allows you to use less of the marker tip. That brush tip comes down to that fine point there, and the straighter up and down you hold it, the more easily you're able to do those finer lines and things. I'm not worried about whether or not it's a perfect blend or anything like that, because flowers have different color variations throughout them. So what I'm doing is just putting down little flicks of color over top of the colors from darkest to lightest. That's literally all I'm doing here. It's nothing special to it. If you want to see how color blends go together, do like I did where that the hugs is up there on the top on that scrap piece of paper. I will take all of my colors that I want to use and I will completely blend them together and make sure that that's the blend that I want to use. And in this one, I pulled out those 6 markers, and one of them was too dark for what I wanted it for, and I said, nope, I'm not going to use that one. And I put it back and swapped it out for another one. But I tested my color blend first before I went to my paper. I made up my own color blends here. I didn't use somebody else's. I just tested what I wanted and I did it. They are colors that are in the same color family. They are all RV markers, and they are RV69, RV19, RV09, 06, 04, and 02. The 19 and the 69 are way out of that 02 to 09 coloring family there, that color blend family. However, they lend a really nice dark to that flower. My greens, I'm only using 4 markers. I don't actually have that many greens, and as you can see, I actually tested out several different greens. I didn't know if I wanted something that was a little brighter or something that was a little darker, something that was a little duller in color. So I tested those out before I actually went to my project with them. My color blend here is G19, 14, 12, and G07. And G07 being my lightest color, and it kind of dulled everything back. You saw here that I took my both end caps off of my marker. If you're ever working with your Copic marker and all of a sudden the end of it gets, your brush tip gets really shiny, pull the other end top off and just take it immediately to a scrap piece of paper. It's getting ready to go bloop on you. So you definitely want to make sure that that doesn't happen, because it's a pain to fix your project. It can be fixed, but it's just a pain to do it. So I went outside the lines a little bit here and there. So I'm going to use a white gel marker here, gel pen here in a minute to fix it. Sorry, my big head's in the way. I need to make sure I line that up appropriately. And then we're going to die cut the flower out using the coordinating die. And now we're going to cut out our background pattern here. I didn't want it to be the full A2 size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. But I wanted to make sure that it actually fit my entire flower image on the background there. So I picked where I wanted it to go, and I'm putting, this is just some washi tape that I'm sticking on there to make sure it doesn't shift any when I do it. Now for the sentiment. I line everything up on my grid paper, on my grid mat that I have there, and then I will square up, even though I don't have grid lines on my block there, I still square it up with the grid lines. I did not have any matching paper, pink paper, so I'm making my own. I'm just scribbling on some Copic marker onto that same white that I die cut the flower from, and scribble that on there. And I will dry. I did heat set this to make sure that it was dry. And you'll see right here, I tested it with the embossing powder to make sure that it was completely dry and there was nothing on it, that it was going to, not going to pick up any stray embossing powder and stick where it shouldn't, because that just causes a big old mess. So now we're going to heat emboss the white sentiment. And I'm using a small die from that same stitched rectangle die set to cut my sentiment out, but I just wanted to make sure that it would fit, and I wanted to make sure where I needed to place it on my paper so that I had enough room. So knock off that extra embossing powder there, and I made sure that I covered it really good, make sure it was sticking everywhere it should. My heat tool is already hot from where I've been using it, so it didn't take but a second there. Now I'm going to die cut this out, the sentiment, and we'll put the card together. I always use washi tape to hold down my dies so they don't move around on me. And now we have the white gel pen. And you can't tell that I went outside the lines after you fix the white gel pen part. And I'm just looking for the different areas that I might have went outside the lines a little bit. I didn't add any extra anything to this floral image because I wanted to keep the card pretty simple. It's a busy background on it, but it's such a still subtle background. Put some fun foam on the back of it. Now this is great. My tape gun decided that it wanted to be all silly on me today. So here in just a second, it decides to come apart. And ta-da! See, it decided it wanted to come apart, and I just didn't feel like putting it back together. So this particular tape runner has been discontinued, but I need to use up the tape that's in it, the adhesive that's in it. So I'll just go ahead and finish with that and use it up. Make sure that's stuck down nice and squared up. I use liquid adhesive on these finer detail things. I'm using Nuvo Deluxe liquid adhesive. I seriously like it. It's easy to use. It doesn't clog. It dries matte. So I'm really happy with it. It's been kind of hard to find there for a while, but I think the inventory's back up on it. So stick that down. Make sure that that's stuck down everywhere so nothing pops up that it shouldn't. And we're going to go ahead and pop up our sentiment strip as well with some fun foam. I just cut down a little piece of it. The scissors that I use are Fiskar Teflon scissors, so nothing sticks to them. Trust me, it will make your life so much easier to have Teflon scissors. And I've always used Fiskar. Little glue on that, and it's down. Now, we need to add some other little pieces of interest to this card. It's pretty on its own, but I wanted to add some Nuvo drops. I was getting ready to add the Nuvo drops, and then I went, I want to put some glitter on here, and if I don't do that first, I will have Nuvo drops smeared all over this card. So, adding a little bit of Aqua Shimmer pen from Tonic. This is in the clear Aqua Shimmer pen. Same thing as Wink Stella in the clear variety there. And add that to all the flowers. I added a bunch of it. I wanted my flowers really shiny and sparkly. This will pick up some of the color from your Copic markers. So before you put it away, I would recommend that you just scribble it off and get the color off of the tip of it so you don't carry it to your next project. And here, hold the bottle straight up and down for Nuvo drops. Make sure that you shake it down before you start so that you don't get any air bubbles in it. Start them off if you need to on a separate piece of paper, on scrap paper. Here, I'm tapping the paper so that the drops flatten out a little bit. And you can also pick it up and flick the back of the card with your thumb so that the drops will flatten out just a tad bit and those peaks go away on them, because sometimes this stuff is thick, so it will get and keep a peak on it sometime. So you can just flick the back of the card a couple hard times. It doesn't make them run everywhere or anything like that. It just flattens the peaks out on those drops. And here I'm flicking the back of the card. And that's the entire card. I thank you so very much for joining me today. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me. Have a great day.